This is The Future of Money, a podcast where we hope to educate and get educated about the new world of blockchain and digital money. And my name is Eric Den Boer, and I will be your host. Hi there, welcome back to Blockchain and the Future of Money. And today we are going to talk AI and ethics and diversity. With me today, I know that's going to be pretty heavy. Okay. Today with me I have Stephen and I have Lee. And a quick introduction here. Stephen, please.
I work at the University of Arkansas at the International Students and Scholars Office, and I'm basically their data analyst and IT person.
Nice. And I'm KUAF's general manager.
Yep. All right. So let's start with ethical considerations when developing AI systems. How can it be designed and trained so it is fair and unbiased for individuals and communities? That's a heavy question.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, like have you played with Midjourney? That's the one that, yeah, right.
Let's explain what Midjourney is.
Right. You typically go to it through Discord and you describe an image that you want, and the AI will generate it for you.
Yeah. So Midjourney is actually an AI image generator, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
one of the things that I've noticed is if you just say, I was making a virtual newsroom, for instance, in a virtual environment. And so if I just said reporters, it seemed like only Caucasians were represented, like that was the default. Mm-hmm. So I would think that the default, especially in America, would be a more diverse, actors on there. So that was kind of disappointing. They can be trained. You have to almost ask for the diversity. Like I want, some ethnical people, of many races into your scenes, and then it will render because that's what you're wanting for your input.
But if you just are like saying people, I just want people.
Right.
They're generally arriving as Caucasian.
Yeah, I did actually see that they were talking about CEOs. And every time the picture came up, it was a white male and a certain age. But my question here is, why is it doing that?
Well, let's get into theories here. There's primary in the Silicon Valley area that's kind of like a bros club. So, and then most people just happen to be white. I don't know why, but obviously the diversity is not represented well.
So one thing that I was reading about that was that because AI, what it does to get it information is called scraping, and it actually goes out online and scrapes everything online or that has been published about this. And unfortunately then when it scrapes, it gets all of that information in, and what it sees that the majority of the pictures, the images, the data that it finds are white male, this age, or what it is, and therefore creates that image of what it's been scraping. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
So there's kind of as long as we live in a racist society, maybe these systems are going to be racist because they're scraping what already exists and they're looking at our society.
Or how they're being trained is wrong, like autonomous vehicles. It just happened to be since Silicon Valley is like a bros club, it was trained upon a lot of white people crossing the road. And it's a very big deal if a person of color is crossing the road and they're not recognized as a person, but that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
It kind of it reminds me of how old film they would like Kodak film. They would take pictures and of white people, but it was just that because that's what they trained upon. That's what the model was, right?
Yeah.
The test subjects, and then a person of color is not rendered on film correctly. Yeah.
Or any of the Siri or Alexa or they're not trained for women's voices. Oh. They're trained on men's voices.
Yes.
So they don't understand my daughter very well. Like stuff like that. So there is, I really, you know me, I like it where these sorts of technologies intersect with humans, and that's the real important piece to me. And as long as humans construct a society, or at least in America where we have this society, how can it not, be replicated in our AI and our metaverse and our
Yeah,
the digital
I do think
constructions?
that, well, like all technologies or anything that's been new or whatever, it always reaches the riches and whatever first, right? And then after a while, it starts trickling down to the regular people, and we're going to talk about that in the next episode, which I hope you're going to come and see. Talking about integration and stuff like that. But one of the things that I was reading about was that there was a lot of money spent on GPT-4, right? But now there's I think it's called Alpaca, and they actually trained their AI on this $4 million GPT-4, and it took them 6 weeks and $600, right?
Wow.
Which means that now it's going to trickle down to the people that haven't had access to it, and they are going to start generate their own contents and stuff like that. And I think that there, hopefully, this is what I hope, there will be a pivot point where it changes over, because now there's so many more diverse cultures and personalities and people and whatever. So they will start create more content. And of course, the AI then is going to go out and say, hey, I'm going to scrape, and now it will find more of the diversity in there. That's what I hope. I don't know if I'm right, but
Yeah, that sounds like the most democratic
yes.
way that it could work. I hope it goes that way. Yeah.
Well, we talked about how Elon and those guys were saying, oh, we want to put this on hold. I think in a way, maybe, yes, it's a good thing. But on the other hand, no, what you're doing then, you're putting this on hold, and now you're taking this away from all these people that want to start developing on it. Personally, I do think that this, the cat is out of the bag. I always get that confused. I say box, but hey,
It's
I'm
a bag.
Swedish, okay? So that there's more and more people that are getting into it and learning how to implement these in different areas.
Well, we shouldn't stop developing, because one of the things that we could develop is the ethics. I mean, ethics is a professor that was explaining it to me is very mathematical, and of all philosophies, you can actually get an answer other than, if we were having questions about how, do we exist? So a lot of these models are just working mathematically in calculus and then grouping words together. So the developers could easily work the mathematical aspects of ethics into the coding. Because it's not sentient yet. It is all just, some complex math that is grouping things together.
So why not put your thumb on the scale a little bit and and create those ethics to direct it to maybe scrape in some places where they might get more diverse.
Yeah, that brings me into regulations.
Okay.
But you're right. Should we regulate the development and ensure that it's in alignment with ethical principles, for instance?
I would say yes.
I think most people would, but there will also be some saying no. But should we? Is it ethical to actually start regulating, or is it more ethical to just let it grow on its own?
No, please, you answer first.
Well, it has some guardrails built in. So it depends on who's doing the regulating. Just like media, the hope was that the media would regulate itself and not put bad things on certain hours of the day. But then that got complex,
Right.
and layers of things on top of it. So if the industry is able to self-regulate itself, then we won't need government regulation, which I think that's what's going to scare most people. What scares me is that we primarily have lawyers and stuff as our representatives in Congress and whatnot, and they just don't know the tech very well. And so their decisions upon regulation is usually a little bit off. Or, when they say, well, we should, regulate it like this, it's, usually I don't think it's, good as a grassroots or, if the regulation came from the users.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem. I think a really large problem. The knowledge gap of the people who are making our laws, and the way technology is developing, evolving. I mean, it's so quick, and that group of people is not up to speed. I mean, I'm not even up to speed, and I'm on a podcast about technology. So so I get that concern absolutely about who's regulating it, but I also think that self-regulation. You're going to need to have a strong ethics to guide it. Something has to guide self-regulation.
When it comes to politics, I'm on the opinion that we, the citizens of the United States, have put ourselves in this box, because the thing is that nobody really want to get into politics anymore. Most people are saying, no, politics, I'm not caring about it. And what happened then is that the people that are going into politics, excuse me, they usually have an agenda for themselves, right? And unfortunately, from what I have noticed, is that those people that get into politics usually they're not that smart. And they're usually not that interested, and especially not in technology. So that is a little bit our own fault. So when you listen to this, go out there and vote for people that actually are smart. Anyway, but that's my personal opinion, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think people should vote for sure. I think we always have to remind ourselves, I mean, we're talking about industry, and we're talking about capitalism, and we're talking about people who are going to want to monetize and make, build these so that there are going to be massive, massive wealth builders for the people who build them. That's just reality, and I think we should be
comment
really
on that.
honest about that. And so that's why I tend to lean toward government regulation, because when you're regulating yourself, when you're in an industry where you're also building your own wealth, is a conflict of interest, and we've seen it happen over and over and over again.
So this morning, I was reading an article about these guys that actually have created an investment AI that actually you will go in, and the AI will help you with hedge funds and all that kind of stuff, and help you create your own portfolio and your own investments. And again, all the AI does is just scrape all the information that's online. That's exactly what, investors do for you. But now you have your personal AI do that for you. So the wealth in that sense can be spread a little bit more even.
Yes, until somebody takes that AI and makes a service, a company out of it. And so then that's their way of investing. I mean,
could be. But usually the people that are, people that are liking to invest and do the research on their own, they're going to do that, and successful or not. And then the people that are lazy are not. And they're just going to, I'm going to have an investment company do this for me. So what would be the difference then? If there's a company that, I don't want to spend time talking to this AI and figure things out on my own. So, well, we're getting away from the topic here. We're talking to one thing I want to say about the governments or the regulations is that I am a member of something called the Metaverse Standard Forum. You can look that up, metaversestandardforum.org. It's an organization that actually goes in and invites all kind of companies, industries, and whatnot, and they discuss what should we set for standards for the metaverse. So, for instance, instead of having 3 different languages to write images in the metaverse, we need to agree on one language that creates the images that goes in the metaverse. Because if you are, I think we discussed that when we were talking metaverse in one of the podcasts. So go back and look at it.
You can cross worlds.
Yes,
essentially.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think what would be smart would be that you will have, instead of the Metaverse Standard Forum, you will have the AI Standard Forum, where you have people from all these different kind of industries, people that are coming from ethical groups, people that are coming from the developer groups, people that are coming from the coder groups and stuff like that. And those can then come up with, what should we set for standard? What sounds reasonable to set as a standard? And then go to different government entities and say, just like Metaverse Standard Forum does, once they, it's all open. Anybody, well, if you're a company, you can join, and if you have something that you want to say, join those, have your say, and then maybe create something. And then that takes then from the group into a government entity. And like we have entities in the government that are, the technical groups, and NIST, for instance, is a government. And you bring that there, and then they suggest and say, this could be something that is useful, and maybe we should set as a standard. What do you think?
Definitely, we need to get our legislators more educated on the process, for sure.
So we should promote AI to be more useful, to promote socials, but how can we? We're talking about the social aspect, and when we talk about social aspects, in my view, that would be more like minorities, ex-convicts, et cetera, et cetera. So how can we make sure that AI is not, how would I say this?
Discriminatory?
Discriminatory, right. That's a good word. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I tend to think that it does come down. I like the idea of having a consortium and having it be built of people who have different stakes in the technology. I mean, I think that's the best case scenario that we've talked about today, in my opinion. But again, it's still, I don't know. I think that we're going to have to be proactive to keep it from being discriminatory, rather than just let it allow to sort of scrape and work within the framework that we've already established, because our the discriminations of society are in that framework.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm not exactly sure, except for I like the idea of building a consortium where people are being very aware.
Yeah, one thing that I think about a lot is that a lot of times when we talk, and you probably have noticed that too, the problem we are having, even in this group, is that we always go back and look and see, in our society, but hey, America,
It's global,
you got
you're right.
Africa, you got India, you got China. China, for instance, right now are using what I feel is very discriminatory in their way of using AIs, where they have created these programs that are scanning your face, and depending on what you do you get social points. I think it is social credits. I can't remember the word, but so if you are a young Chinese or whatever, yes, you can go to the store, and with facial recognition, they would see, oh yeah, this is a good citizen, and she's a paying customer, and therefore she gets 2% off, right? Or even in a case that I was reading about, where they were like, yeah, they're suggesting other people's that is in your score range that you should hang out with because you think the same.
It even gets worse with the Uyghur population to the west, that they'll identify somebody that needs to be re-educated or something like that. There's a lot of diversity in China, but I would say that the government wants to fight against that. They want everybody as one, so they don't want separate groups of people getting together. So that's really frightening. Is that aspect of it? Is this is that person, and we need to re-educate them. It's very scary.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
In that sense, I think, okay, so communism, when they under Mao Zedong was doing that, re-educating people with their
Well, they're
little
doing it
leaflets
right
and stuff like
now.
that.
No,
But
they
now
put them
they're
in
doing,
concentration camps, basically.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Well, I honestly find it as scary, the idea that I'm clumped into a group of people based on a score. I mean, I understand that we kind of already function like this in credit scores and things like that, but that's also a form of society that I don't particularly want to live in, where you, let's say if you have a counter voice, if you have a dissenting voice, if you have a lived experience that's different than someone else's, that you're somehow now clumped with others. It just sounds like it's a really easy way to other people.
Yes.
And it also seems like it's about conformity. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same conformity. Like,
Yeah.
do your thing, win your points, go talk to your good people. And there's a part of me that's like, I want to blow that entire thing up.
Yeah, and what I think is really unfair is because some people are just born with the, I don't know if you can call it defects or whatever it is, but they're born different. And then suddenly they have no chance to become part of that elite group. So
Yeah, that's just nothing about that is
yeah,
the direction that I would like to be going
No.
as a human being.
no, absolutely
Yeah.
not. Yeah, so I think one of the things that I think is important is that AI must be built using data that's transparent and unbiased. That's where we can get to this. The big question then is how do you get there? Because there's going to be governments that don't want it to be that. Do you guys think that eventually, if some countries are using systems that is unbiased, and then other countries that are not, that they will influence each other one way or the other?
It'd be great if it influenced in a positive way. Like if everybody gets to, like if there's a stink created and the AI industry was really called out for not having diversity. I mean, it would benefit them more by having more diverse content. So you're not alienating segments of your society. So.
No,
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, that's one of those things where capitalism really can help you out. Because wouldn't you rather have the largest customer base that you possibly could have?
Yeah.
Maybe not, though.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I work in public radio, so I'm not.
No.
the expert on this.
Totally hear
But
you.
maybe not. I mean, I do think that it's interesting because it makes us talk about the same inequities that exist in regular life. And so it's a great opportunity to talk about those inequities as well and how, we can address them. But that's a question I have for you. If you're on a standards committee and talking about building something globally, how do you deal with those issues where governments are very different from one another, cultures are very different from one another?
So in the Metaverse Standard Forum that I belong to, I also belong to a different kind of subgroups in there. I belong to a group called the Digital Asset Group. And we talk a lot about how do you define an asset when you are in a digital world. For instance, I usually take this as an example, but let's say that you're a World of Warcraft gamer and you have been out there and then in a battle you win a certain axe that is very valuable, right, in the world. And now you're going to go from this world, you're going to go to a different world, to a Snoop Dogg concert, but you really would like to show this battle axe off. So you put that on your avatar and you bring that over to the other world. How do you transfer those digital assets? Those are things that we're talking about. So in my sense, it's maybe a little bit easier because you're talking about data that you need to transfer from one world to the other, and how do you make that secure to transfer? I'm not going to go into details because it's really boring. Part of the way you can do this is called swapping, but let's not go into that. We can do that. But one thing that I with the AI stuff, that is a little harder because you're not talking about something that is tangible in the same way. Because now you're talking about something that is more of a moral, ethical, and stuff like that.
Because it makes its own decisions.
Yes.
So that's the main
my take on this, and I want to hear your opinion on that too, is that I believe in openness and transparency. Okay, so I think that when you create an AI and stuff like that, make it explainable. Make it so that when you push something out there, you explain how you got there and how someone else can build the same thing. Because the more you're open about it, the more you can create, and everybody can create on it. And then there's no hidden agendas anywhere. The question then is like, okay, so the United States, when you build something, they are probably going to be like, okay, here is everything we did, and this is how you can do this, and so on and so forth. Do we think other countries are going to be like that? Personally, I don't think so. They are going to be so, no, we're not going to share that with the public. We don't need them to know how we are, doing these things, right? And but I also have this opinion. My opinion, again, is that people have a way to when they look at what this world has and it's free and it works and all that kind of stuff. They say, I want to start implementing that here. And if the government doesn't do the changes, then they will revolt. They're going to say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. And we've seen that over and over and over again. Governments try to impose things that they think are right, but humanity will be in charge. It always have. I mean, you can go back in history, and you can see that the winners are usually the people themselves.
Yeah,
so that's my opinion.
Thankfully,
Thoughts?
there's a lot of or should be transparency upon the what they're being trained upon, what these AIs are being trained upon. You mentioned Alpaca, so last night I was curious about their training data, and so it's very important to have that online, the question and answers and the input and output of what you're expecting. That's one way of being transparent about this. Open source initiatives are going to be more important, I think, than somebody hiding how they've done things. Even Open AI, even though that it's a paid service, they seem to be going towards a capitalist model on that. So you can't get on to GitHub and actually see their development of the AI, but they luckily have put the models out there, the question and answers that AI that their ChatGPT has been trained on. So maybe somebody could, find some erroneous entries in there.
Yeah, one thing that you kind of touched on before, but I think it's really important when you do actually, when companies go in and start training on these different things, they need to have a diverse team in the development stage. One thing I did here was, like, for instance, I can't remember if it was Microsoft that, they went ahead and they fired all their the diversity teams and the ethics teams and stuff like that. By the way, which wasn't really true because it was a regular cut down. So there was only 1/3 of that group that actually left. You're going to have to do that research on your own. But I do think by doing things like that is really important.
yeah.
Big companies need to not only go in and say, hey, you're really smart and you're a good programmer. Get someone in there that might not be as smart, but has a really good, diverse way of thinking that could, help the people that are the developers, for instance, right?
Right. One of the things I was watching this documentary on small nuclear reactors, like something that could power parts of the city. So one of the things that they did in testing was they tried to make the core go critical, to have an actual meltdown on purpose. And the reasoning was, is they wanted it to be so safe that even if somebody was trying to do that it could not happen. And so they were pretty confident that that was true upon that, nuclear core. Similar things are coming out in AI. Well, what's the worst thing that can happen? There's projects out there that are like, well, let's see if we can train the bot to be as bad as it can be, and then see how we can protect against those things. Just like
That's a
if
good
something
point.
was to become critical and like with the core. So
Yeah, that's a good point. That's really good.
and just like Chernobyl, the world needed to know the effects of that reactor.
Yeah,
Of
we
that
we,
reactive
we need to
accident.
have we need to have people that are kind of sitting in front of the button and saying, "Nah, I don't think so." That reminds me of that. It's a Russian military guy that actually prevented a world war incident where the data system thought that they were nuclear attack on the United States, and I just was thinking about his name. Right now I can't remember, but you can look it up because it did happen. He actually sat there and waited and waited, and this thing, the nuclear head was coming closer and closer to Russia, and he just refused to hit the button, and he was right. It was a malfunction in the data system. So there would need to be some, that brings me into the next thing, that it was auditing and monitoring. That is something that is really important. We have AOSs who can help ensure that we are transparent and accountable, but someone needs to regulate and audit and monitor the systems. And who does that? Well, it could be a department on the EU, maybe, or like here in the United States, a lot of the research stuff that is going on usually ends up going through NIST, for instance. So maybe we can have organizations in every country or every large, like Europe will have one, China will have one, America will have one, and then these guys are always talking to each other, and they are the ones that monitors what's going on. I don't know if that's the right way of going, but maybe a thought?
Bring up another nuclear case. So like the NRC, this group that wants to create mini reactors and that are ultra safe and everything, they're bumping against the current regulations. We don't want just anybody to be able to go on ChatGPT and say, how do I build a nuclear reactor or bomb in my basement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, ethics, again, AIs, we can go on forever, but I do think we are running out of a little bit of time here. So thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thank you.